Hello and welcome back. I am once again in the Republic, and this time I'm in a division with Sol, who is playing the Moskva, and Warlock, who is playing the Z-52. Now, if you have watched any of my other Republic games, because I think there's been a few by now, you probably know that it's not one of my favorite ships. At this point I was still grinding the legendary, so I had an incentive to play it. But I'm just not a fan. And I probably said it before, but it's not because it's a bad ship, because it's definitely strong, at least when it wants to. The problem is that the guns are just so incredibly unreliable. And when it comes to battleships, I talk a fair bit about reliability, and it's just because it's so important when you can only shoot as seldom as you can in a battleship to really make your shells count. And when it comes to Republic, you just can't, in my opinion. Yes, you can get some really good hits, but the feeling is you can't really control it. You can aim perfectly and really consider what the enemy is doing and just should be able to get perfect hit, but the shells will just land, well, nowhere anywhere near where you aim. Or you can aim at the other side of the map and delete something. So you really never know what you will get. And I guess that is my biggest issue with the ship, that it's not as much what I do as it is what the guns want to do. Of course, it's not always that extreme, but it's also not uncommon. Nevertheless, I am playing it, and Sol and I are trying to make our way south towards A, while Warlock is heading into B to try and cap it. Thanks to the scouting from our CV, we know that the enemy team is heavily pushing towards C. Right now there is a Hindenburg and a Yamato, and also an Alsace that is moving south. Other than that, it looks like the entire enemy team is over at sea or heading there. From our side, the majority of our team is also heading over to sea, but because the enemy has a DD there and we don't, they are playing fairly passive and basically just trying to hold them at bay. Now, because we now have two battleships in the middle here, I can't really push into A as I want to, but instead I need to try and deal with Alsace as best I can, at least get him killed before I move in. Warlock is still trying to cap and sending out torps towards the Alsace and Yamato when he can. Sol have been managed to get closer to A, but it's also very much helping with the battleships and also the Hindenburg over at the one line. The Alsace is taking heavy damage though, and will be going down very shortly. So instead I switched to the Yamato as Warlock gets the final hits and First Blood award. I'm taking the opportunity to try and turn in and get to A. knowing there will be shells from the Yamato, but hoping that I can avoid them, which I basically managed to do. We still have the CV harassing us, and over at sea, our ships there are being forced further and further back. Seoul has finally managed to get into A, but is in a crossfire between the Yamato and Hindenburg. So he needs to get an island between himself and the Yamato. And I really need to get in there and help him out. Warlock is still doing what he can to help out, keeping ship spotted and torping. But we also see that we lost our first ship, and the enemy team is now pushing through sea to continue on that line and push our team further back.
Provide anti-aircraft fire support. Affirmative.
Warlock is in some issues with the CV. Actually getting some fighters from the CV, which is very good. But nevertheless, the CV is really trying to get Warlock out of this game, since losing a DD would definitely hurt us. Warlock managed to smoke up, but he's getting very low, and sadly in a bit he will be going down. Meanwhile, we finally managed to take down the Yamato, and this time it's me getting the kill. And me, Sol, and friendly Sao, we are now capping A and trying to deal with Hindenburg so that we can finally move up and support B and try to stop the enemy forces advancing through sea.
Provide anti-aircraft fire support.
Hindenburg is basically dead. I threw out some shells to hopefully try to finish him. And to Sol's disappointment, I am the one that takes a kill, even though he had been shooting at him for quite some time. But as you probably already know by watching my videos, Sol is a bit of a kill stealer, so every once in a while it's nice to repay him in the same. We now have a Seattle in B, sitting by an island, making it difficult for us to deal with him. And sadly, while we were busy here in the south, we lost Warlock. So we are one ship behind, and we're also behind on points, and we are on our way on losing B as it looks. The ships that were in the north at sea have now sailed all the way back to our spawn. Luckily, other than the Hindenburg, there's really nothing on the west side of the map, so it's fairly easy for us to focus on the east side, where the enemy ships are pushing into our flank instead of trying to support the Seattle in B. Trying to shoot, but again, like I talked about, guns, sometimes they just don't want to cooperate, even when you aim well. Of course, sometimes you aim badly, like I did here when I didn't predict that Moscow would stop, but that's another story. Seattle has still managed to stay alive, and is still trying to cap, or at the very least he's blocking us from getting points from it. Hindenburg up in the north is also alive, spamming HE, making our lives just a little bit more annoying. We managed to get a kill though, but we also lose a battleship in return. So far into the game, the enemy team has managed to hold us at bay. We're also dealing a bit with the CV here, slowing us down further. And I am actually turning back to get better angles at the ships over at this side, to hopefully get some good hits, push them back to allow us to take command of this game. The Seattle at last went down, so we now have control of 2 caps fully, while the enemy only has control of 1, and both teams are 5 ships down. By now I've gotten a bit too far south, so I need to start turning back. And we also see that the enemy DD, the Shimakaze, has actually been running for our CV instead of trying to be more helpful. And we will actually come back to the 2 of them later, but for now our main issue is the group of ships east of B that's trying to get Seoul killed, and also the Des Moines. I am now rushing towards B to try and support Seoul as best I can, hopefully shift their focus from him to me, since I still have a lot of my HP left and he is getting low quite quickly. Kurfürst is taking some severe damage, and we work on trying to take him out. And I managed to finish him off the last 600 HP, get my 3rd kill, and can now switch to the Kurfürst, which is trying to I think shoot at Seoul. The secondary switch to me, and while I tank some damage, Seoul can get away from the 2 battleships here, try and get around. Iowa showing some broadside, so I shoot at him while trying to keep myself angled towards the Kurfürst. And I get a pretty good hit, a 25k salvo. But Iowa still has a fair amount of HP left. And here is a pretty good example of how the guns can go from being great to, let's just say, not so great. Dealing basically no damage at all, even though I got several hits. Still focusing on trying to take down the Iowa, but the CV gets the kill. That's good, because now I can switch over to Kurfürst. I am forced to give a bit too much broadside here, or forced, I give too much broadside in order to get my rear gun on him. And I eat a significant amount of damage as a result. But however, get a fairly good salvo off and get him killed. And now I switch over to the Moskva together with Seoul. And it actually is looking fairly good. Unfortunately, the Moskva gets a fire on me, on his first salvo. And seeing as I have no heal or repair ready, that is a really bad situation for me. My secondaries are hammering on him. I shoot whenever I can, waiting for my rear gun to turn around. I get Confederate, I activate my speed boost to start turning around and try to get my rear gun on him before I die. I fire, he fire, sadly only get my front gun on, but almost managed to delete him. Not quite, and that's really unfortunate, but he's on fire, but this time Soul steals my kill and my Kraken. Seeing as I stole his Hindenburg kill, I guess we're even in this particular game, but it would have been nice to get the 5th kill as well. Nevertheless, I end up at 252,000 damage and 4 kills. And we still have 2 caps, and we now have 2 ships more. However, the CV is a big problem for us. And especially the AP bombs that Soul will feel here. The T and the SAO are running towards Z, where the CV is somewhere. Meanwhile, the Hakuryu and Yamato are trying to deal with enemy Shimakaze, but it will not go as well as it would have been needed. As we see there, the Yamato goes down, and down in the south we now have Ashimi versus Hakuryu. Soul is getting really low, SAO is still decent in terms of health. But this is getting quite dangerously close actually. The Shimi is trying to get to the CV, who in return is trying to keep an eye line between. The Hakuryu is spotted, Sal opens up, but the enemy CV is once again attempting to take out Soul. And, well, the bombs are very annoying. He tries to turn so he gives his broadside instead of the length of his ship, but nevertheless, the CV takes out Soul, and all of a sudden it's looking quite badly. It's just over 2 minutes left. The CV is now reversing to try and get out of the detection from the Shimi, and of course to remove the angle of the torpedoes. So also consistently harassing the Shimi, trying to get him to turn away and lose time. And up in the north, the SAO is now detecting the Hakuryu, getting some decent hits, but that is a fairly tough battle, seeing as the SAO will eat a lot of damage from the enemy planes. Over here at A, the Shimi has now entered the cap, and the Hakuryu is just reversing as quickly as it can, trying to get behind the island to remove the angles of the torpedoes. Since we have B and we have the leading points, all we need to do really is survive. But then the Hakuryu deletes the SAO. We're still ahead, and it's only about 40 seconds left. But this game really ended up being way too closer than it should have been. Because of lack of time, the Shimi, as we will see, is torping straight in front of the Hakuryu, which is our saving grace, since with a bit more time the Shimi would be able to get closer and actually get the kill. But the torps will miss and time will tick out, and we will actually manage to win this game. And as we usually do, we take a quick look at the result screens as well. And just as we saw in the game, I ended up at 232,000 damage, which is respectable results, definitely. Sadly, didn't get the Kraken, 4 kills. I understand Saul wanting to take the kill back, but I had a fire on him and he would have died, so a bit annoyed. But still, I mean, a good result, and we won the game, even though it was way too close. And more close than it should have been. For rewards, only the Confederate, unfortunately. Team score-wise, I am at the top at a bit less than 2.4 thousand base XP, with Soul 200 below me, and then we have RCV a bit below that as well, but the 3 of us had all above 2000 base XP. Warlock ended up in middle somewhere, which is honestly a bit unfair. He was really important for us in the start of the game, taking the B cap, which gave us a lot of points, and also helping us with getting the 2 BBs killed and torping them and making it harder for them to do whatever they wanted. But that is how the game works, so sadly he ended up as low as he did. On the enemy team, it was mostly Shimmy that did well. 3 kills and even 20 plane kills. So that is a really good game from him, as it looks like at least. And had he had just a little bit more time, he would have actually been able to kill Arakurio with his torps, I'm sure. And instead would have lost the game, so it wasn't that far off, and we just lucky that the time ran out. Detail report, not that much to look at. Damage is fairly spread, hence the Confederate award. Most of the damage is from the guns, about 204,000, and then some change with secondaries and a bit of fire as well. Just under 2 million potential damage, which is decent in a Republic. And 134,000 damage received, which is a fair amount as well. But that pretty much sums up this game. Like I said, and like the title says, it shouldn't have been this close, but it was. So it was definitely a relief when we actually won, and I can tell you that those last minute or so when we watched Shimmy trying to get to Ragurio, we were basically sitting on needles waiting for it to end. So, pretty interesting game, and I hope you enjoyed watching it, and I will see you next time.